Alright, here we go. In a world so vast and grand we stand, a microcosm of God's divine hand. Calvin's wisdom let us understand, man a wonder by design so grand. Within ourselves the wonders unfold, evidence of grace in each story told. God's nearness a treasure to behold, in introspection his love is told. David's psalm, his insight profound, human insignificance on nature's ground. Yet God's care and love do surround, in every child His glory is found. Infants' voices, pure and sweet, proclaim God's presence. Oh, what a feat! Refuting deniers with love replete, in their innocence their faith they greet. Paul's words from Aratus' ancient score declare God is our Father evermore. Gifts bestowed, our spirits so sore. In His embrace we find what we're here for. Paternal love, a motivator so strong to God's service, it truly does belong. With love as a source, we all throng. In devotion and reverence, we all belong. In God's love, we find our way, His grace within our hearts display, a chain of wisdom like a bright array. In every concept, we walk and pray. Welcome back to my Fortress of Theology. I'm Jonathan, the Cage Stage Crusader. I'm on a pilgrimage through the Institutes of the Christian Religion by John Calvin, the most influential systematic theology written in the time of the Reformation. Do me a favor and hit the subscribe button, thumbs up to get these videos noticed, and I'll get into Book 1, Chapter 5, Section 3. John Calvin writes, "Hence certain of the philosophers have not improperly called man a microcosm, miniature world, as being a rare specimen of divine power, wisdom, and goodness, and containing within himself wonder sufficient to occupy our minds, if we are willing so to employ them. Paul, accordingly, after reminding the Athenians that they might feel after God and find him, immediately adds that he is not far from every one of us. Acts 17, verse 27. Every man having within himself undoubted evidence of the heavenly grace by which he lives and moves and has his being. But if in order to apprehend God it is unnecessary to go farther than ourselves, what excuse can there be for the sloth of any man, who will not take the trouble of descending into himself that he may find him? For the same reason, too, David, after briefly celebrating the wonderful name and glory of God, as everywhere displayed, immediately exclaims, What is man that thou art mindful of him? And again, out of the mouths of babes and sucklings thou hast ordained strength. Psalm for chapter 8, verses 2 and 4. Thus he declares not only that the human race are a bright mirror of the Creator's works, but that infants hanging on their mothers' breasts have tongues eloquent enough to proclaim his glory without the aid of other orators. Accordingly, he hesitates not to bring them forward as fully instructed to refute the madness of those who, from devilish pride, would fain extinguish the name of God. Hence, too, the passage which Paul quotes from Aratus, we are his offspring, 17, verse 28. The excellent gifts with which he has endued us, attesting that he is our Father. In the same way, also, from natural instinct, and, as it were, at the dictation of experience, heathen poets call him the Father of men. No one, indeed, will voluntarily and willingly devote himself to the service of God, unless he has previously tasted his paternal love and been thereby allured to love and reverence him. In this passage from Calvin's Institutes of the Christian Religion, Calvin explores the concept of man as a microcosm, a miniature world that embodies divine power, wisdom, and goodness. He begins by acknowledging that certain philosophers have aptly described man in this way, highlighting the remarkable nature of human existence. Calvin asserts that within each individual there are profound wonders that, if we are willing to recognize and contemplate, are sufficient to captivate our minds. He emphasizes that the Apostle Paul, in his address to the Athenians, affirms that God is not distant or inaccessible, but rather he is close to every person. Paul's words indicate that within each individual there exists unmistakable evidence of God's grace, sustaining their lives, movements, and existence. Theologian criticizes those who display slothfulness in seeking God, especially when it is unnecessary to look beyond oneself to apprehend God's presence. Calvin calls for introspection and self-reflection as a means to discover the divine within. Calvin references King David's words from the Psalms, where he contemplates the name and glory of God as displayed throughout creation and marvels, what is man that thou art mindful of him? This illustrates the idea that humanity serves as a bright mirror reflecting the works of the Creator. David's acknowledgement doesn't stop at mature individuals, but extends to infants, emphasizing that even those at their earliest stages of life, while nursing at their mother's breast, possess tongues eloquent enough to proclaim God's glory. The innocence of infants serves as a powerful refutation of the arrogance of those who deny God's existence, highlighting the inherent capacity of all humans, regardless of age, to reflect God's glory. Furthermore, Calvin refers to the Apostle Paul's citation of Aratus, who declared, "We are his offspring." This implies that God is, in essence, the father of humanity, and the exceptional gifts bestowed upon us serve as evidence of this paternal relationship. Calvin concludes by underscoring that individuals are not likely to willingly devote themselves to the service of God unless they have first experienced and tasted his paternal love. This love serves as a compelling motivator for devotion, love, and reverence toward God. In summary, this passage from Calvin's Institutes of the Christian Religion explores the idea that humans are a microcosm reflecting divine power and goodness, highlights the accessibility of God within every individual, the significance of introspection, and the role of even the youngest infants in proclaiming God's glory. The text underscores the importance of recognizing God's paternal love as a driving force for devotion and service to the divine. Now let's break this passage down even further and see the depth of Calvin's thoughts on this issue. You can see 10 points made by Calvin in this section. 1. Man is a microcosm of divine power and goodness. Calvin discusses how some philosophers referred to man as a microcosm, a miniature world, to highlight the idea that man is a remarkable creation of divine power, wisdom, and goodness. 2. Wonders within man. Man is said to contain within himself wonders that are sufficient to occupy one's mind, provided that they are willing to recognize and contemplate these wonders. 3. Paul's reference to God's nearness. Calvin references the Apostle Paul's words to the Athenians, stating that they might feel after God and find him. And he adds that he is not far from every one of us. This emphasizes the nearness of God, every individual. 4. Evidence of God's grace within. Calvin asserts that every person has undeniable evidence of God's heavenly grace within themselves, evidence that sustains their life, movements, and existence. 5. No excuse for sloth. Calvin questions why anyone would be slothful in seeking God when it is unnecessary to look beyond oneself to apprehend God's presence. He emphasizes the importance of introspection. 6. David's recognition of human insignificance. Calvin refers to King David's contemplation of the name and glory of God displayed everywhere, and his subsequent exclamation, "What is man that thou art mindful of him?" This underscores the human race as a mirror of God's works. 7. Infants as eloquent proclaimers of God's glory. Calvin highlights David's declaration that even infants, while hanging on their mother's breasts, have eloquent tongues that can proclaim God's glory without any need for other orators. This demonstrates the natural ability of all humans, even the youngest, to reflect God's glory. 8. Refutation of God's deniers. Calvin mentions that David uses infants to refute the arrogance of those who seek to extinguish the name of God through pride. The innocence and purity of infants serve as a powerful testimony to God's existence. 9. Paul's quotation of Aratus. Calvin mentions the passage that the Apostle Paul quotes from Aratus, "We are his offspring." This illustrates that God is our Father, and the excellent gifts bestowed upon us confirm this paternal relationship. 10. Paternal love is a motivator for service. Calvin argues that people will not willingly devote themselves to the service of God unless they have first experienced and tasted his paternal love, which allures them to love and reverence God. This paternal love serves as a motivator for devotion and service. So these points collectively discuss the idea that humans are a reflection of divine creation, that God is near and evident within them, and that recognizing God's paternal love is essential for devotion and service. Let's go through each point. One, man as a microcosm of divine power and goodness. Kelvin discusses how some philosophers referred to man as a microcosm, a miniature world, to highlight the idea that man is a remarkable creation of divine power, wisdom, and goodness. In the grand tapestry of God's creation, we find that humanity stands as a unique and remarkable masterpiece, a microcosm, if you will, reflecting divine attributes in a manner that sets us apart from all other creatures. This concept is not lost on some philosophers who aptly recognize the inherent qualities that make man a miniature world in himself. The idea of man as a microcosm finds support in the biblical narrative, right from the creation of Adam. In Genesis 1:26-27, we read, "Then God said, let us make man in our image after our likeness, and let them have dominion over the fish of the sea, and over the birds of the heavens, and over the livestock, and over all the earth, and over every creeping thing that creeps on the earth." So God created man in his own image. The image of God he created him. Male and female he created them. This passage underscores the unique status of humanity, created in the image and likeness of God, imbued with divine attributes. Philosophers who recognized man as a microcosm essentially observed that within each human being there exists a microcosmic reflection of the larger universe. This means that we carry within us the imprint of divine power, wisdom, and goodness. When we consider the vast cosmos with its galaxies, stars, and intricate systems, we may find parallels within the human body and mind. Just as the universe operates with precision and order, so do our bodies with intricate biological systems in our minds. With the ability to reason, contemplate, and appreciate beauty, these reflections of divine attributes are, in a sense, microcosmic representations of the greater cosmos. Moreover, the concept of man as a microcosm aligns with the biblical understanding of the human condition. As the Apostle Paul notes in Romans 1:20, for his invisible attributes, namely his eternal power and divine nature, have been clearly perceived ever since the creation of the world in the things that have been made. In this verse, Paul emphasizes that the world around us serves as a testament to God's attributes, making the concept of man as a microcosm a profound illustration of how we, as human beings, are intricately intertwined with God's divine creation. Real world examples further illustrate this idea. Consider the complexity of the human brain, a marvel of divine wisdom capable of unparalleled reasoning, creativity, and emotional depth. It's a microcosm of divine intelligence. Think also of the human body's immune system, which defends against countless pathogens with intricate precision, a testimony to the divine goodness that sustains and protects life. The concept of man as a microcosm is not only a philosophical notion, but also firmly rooted in biblical teaching. It reflects the truth that human beings, as God's creation, bear the divine image and manifest divine attributes in remarkable ways, underscoring our unique place in the grand design of the universe. As we explore the intricacies of the human body, mind, and the natural world, we find evidence of divine power, wisdom, and goodness, underscoring the profound significance of this concept. Point two, wonders within man. Man is said to contain within himself wonders that are sufficient to occupy one's mind, provided that they are willing to recognize and contemplate these wonders. This idea aligns with the biblical perspective of the complexity and depth of human nature. In Psalm 139, verse 14, King David beautifully expresses this when he says, I praise you, I praise you, for I'm fearfully and wonderfully made. Wonderful are your works, my soul knows it very well. David, inspired by divine wisdom, acknowledges the intricate wonders of human creation and existence. The wonders within man are intricately linked to the fact that we are created in the image of God, reflecting his creative and marvelous nature. Calvin's assertion that these wonders are sufficient to occupy one's mind underscores the depth and richness of human experience. The human psyche, with its capacity for introspection, creativity, and contemplation, is a realm of boundless wonder. When we examine the human mind and its ability to explore the mysteries of the universe, create art, music, and literature, and contemplate profound philosophical questions, we are witnessing the wonders within man. In the realm of science, we can observe the wonders within man in the field of neuroscience, which explores the intricate functioning of the human brain. Scientists continue to uncover the complexities of neural networks, formation of memories, and the nature of human consciousness. These discoveries only scratch the surface of the profound wonders contained within the human mind. Moreover, the realm of human emotions and relationships also reveal wonders. The capacity to love and empathize and form deep connections with others is a testament to the divine goodness that resides within us. The human heart, in both its physical and metaphorical aspects, contain wonders that have been the subject of art, literature, and philosophy for centuries. Calvin's assertion also calls us to introspection. By turning our gaze inward, we can explore the wonders within ourselves. This might include contemplating our thoughts, emotions, and spiritual experiences. As we delve into self reflection, we can uncover the wonders of our inner world, marveling at the depths of our consciousness and the potential for growth and self discovery. The concept of wonders within man is a profound reflection of the richness of human existence. Rooted in biblical understanding and philosophical depth, it reminds us that human beings created in the image of God possess remarkable capacities for thought, creativity, and introspection. These wonders are a source of inspiration for exploration, both in the realms of science and the depths of our own hearts and minds, and they serve as a testimony to the divine power, wisdom, and goodness that underlie our existence. Oh, look who has come by to do kitty things. Hmm? How you doing, little pretty kitty? Hmm? Elastica thaumaturgus the fourth. Yeah. Paul's reference to God's nearness, Calvin's reference to the Apostle Paul's words to the Athenians stating that they might feel after God, find him. And he adds that he is not far from every one of us. This emphasizes the nearness of God to every individual. In the book of Acts, specifically Acts 17, verse 27, we find the words of the Apostle Paul to the Athenians, which serve as the foundation for Calvin's emphasis on the nearness of God. They should seek God and perhaps feel their way toward him and find him. Yet he is actually not far from each of us. This passage is a testament to the Apostle Paul's ability to communicate complex theological concepts in a way that resonates with both his ancient Greek audience and modern readers. Paul's words resonate deeply within the concept of God's immanence, the idea that God is not a distant, aloof deity, but rather is an intimately near and to every individual, carries profound implications. It underscores the reality that God is accessible, approachable, and relevant in the lives of all people, regardless of their background, culture, or location. Calvin's emphasis on God's nearness is consistent with his broader theological perspective on the providence of God. He argues that God's sovereignty and providence extend to every aspect of human existence, including the intimate details of individual lives. This view aligns with the biblical teaching that God is intimately involved in the affairs of the world and cares for its creation. In a real world context, the concept of God's nearness has profound implications for the experience of faith. It reminds believers that God is not a distant abstract concept, but a living, present reality in their lives. This understanding can bring comfort, assurance, and a sense of divine guidance during life's challenges and uncertainties. For instance, consider individuals facing difficult times, perhaps in the form of illness, loss, or personal crisis. The belief in God's nearness can provide solace and a sense of companionship as they understand that God is walking alongside them in their journey. This perspective can also inspire acts of gratitude, worship, and service as individuals recognize God's continual presence in their lives. Paul's reference to God's nearness, as emphasized by John Calvin, carries profound theological and practical implications. It reminds us that God is not a distant, indifferent deity, but a present and active force in our lives. This concept, deeply rooted in biblical teaching, has the potential to transform the way individuals perceive and experience their relationship with God, providing a profound sense of comfort and purpose in their faith journey. Evidence of God's grace within. That's point 4. Calvin asserts that every person has undeniable evidence of God's heavenly grace within themselves, evidence that sustains their life, movements, and existence. Calvin's assertion that every person possesses undeniable evidence of God's heavenly grace within themselves is rooted in his broader theological perspective on divine providence and grace. In Calvin's view, God's grace is not a distant or abstract concept, but a tangible and ever present reality. This perspective aligns with the biblical teaching that God's grace sustains and upholds the created order. Calvin's argument finds biblical support in the Bible. In Acts 17:28, Paul quotes a line from the poet Erastus, "For in him we live and move and have our being." Just for some historical context, Aratus, he was a Greek poet from the 3rd century BC, hailing from the city of Soli in Cilicia. That's modern day Turkey. He is best known for his didactic poem Phenomena, also known as Appearances, which outlines celestial phenomena and weather patterns. The work is essentially an adaptation of an earlier astronomical poem by Eudoxius. Erastus's Phenomena gained significant popularity in the ancient world for its accessibility and educational value. It was later translated into Latin by Cicero and was commented upon by the Roman poet and philosopher Germanicus Caesar. However, Erastus's influence extended beyond literature. The line quoted by Paul in Acts 17:28, "In him we live and move and have our being," is from the opening lines of Phenomena. While Erastus was likely not a profound religious figure, his words resonated with a broad audience and his ideas found a place in various philosophical and religious discussions of his time. In the context of Acts 17, Paul uses this quote to engage with the Athenian audience, drawing on familiar cultural references to introduce the concept of the Christian God as the source of life and existence. By incorporating Aratus's words, Paul cleverly bridges the message within the cultural and intellectual context of his audience. This statement, "For in him we live and move and have our being," emphasizes the inherent connection between God and human existence. It underscores the idea that God's sustaining grace is evident in every breath we take and every movement we make in every moment of our existence. The concept of evidence of God's grace within can be illustrated in various ways. Consider the intricate biological systems that sustain human life: the beating of the heart, the functioning of the lungs, the intricate processes of digestion, and the immune system's defense against disease. All of these are expressions of God's grace. They are evidence of God's providential care, ensuring the continued existence and well being of each individual. Moreover, the human capacity for reason, thought, and creativity is a testament to God's grace. The ability to contemplate deep philosophical questions, to appreciate beauty and art and nature, and to engage in acts of compassion and love, all of these are manifestations of the grace that empower human agency. In a real world context, in a practical way, the recognition of evidence of God's grace within can have a profound impact on a person's perspective and attitude. It can inspire gratitude and awe for the gift of life and the capacities that come with it. It can lead individuals to view their daily experiences and challenges as opportunities to witness and respond to God's grace at work. Calvin's emphasis on this concept underscores the idea that God's grace is not limited to a select few, but extends to every individual. It's a reminder that God's presence is not confined to religious rituals or sacred spaces, but permeates every aspect of human life. The concept of evidence of God's grace within, as articulated by John Calvin, highlights the profound interconnectedness between God and human existence. It underscores the tangible and pervasive nature of God's grace, which sustains and empowers every person's life, movement, and existence. This perspective has the potential to transform how individuals perceive their daily lives, and it can inspire a deep sense of gratitude and reverence for the divine presence that is ever at hand. On to point 5, no excuse for sloth. Calvin's questions Calvin questions why anyone would be slothful in seeking God when it is unnecessary to look beyond oneself to apprehend God's presence. He emphasizes the importance of introspection. Calvin's perspective on this matter is deeply rooted in his understanding of God's accessibility and the responsibility of humanity to actively seek and engage with the divine. It aligns with the biblical principle that God is near and can be found by those who seek him with a sincere heart. Apostle James reinforces this idea in James 4:8, stating, "Draw near to God, and he will draw near to you." This verse underscores the reciprocal nature of seeking God. When individuals take the initiative to draw near to God through introspection, you'll find that God is already near, ready to respond to their pursuit. Calvin's argument highlights the paradox of spiritual sloth or laziness. He questions why anyone would be sluggish or indifferent in their search for God when the evidence of God's presence is abundantly clear, even within oneself. This questioning of spiritual sloth is a call to action, encouraging individuals to overcome complacency and actively engage in a deeper relationship with the divine. In real world context, the concept of no excuse for sloth can serve as a catalyst for personal spiritual growth and transformation. It reminds individuals that they hold the key to a closer relationship with God through introspection and active seeking. It encourages self examination and the cultivation of spiritual disciplines, such as prayer, meditation, and the study of sacred texts. Moreover, this concept can inspire individuals to overcome apathy and complacency in their spiritual lives. It reminds them that God's presence is not elusive or distract, but ever present. Uh, it reminds them that God's presence is not elusive or distant, but ever present and accessible. In this way, it challenges individuals to live with intention, purpose, and a sense of urgency in their pursuit of a deeper spiritual connection. The concept of no excuse for sloth, as presented by John Calvin, underscores the personal responsibility to actively seek and engage with God. It calls individuals to overcome spiritual complacency and emphasizes the importance of introspection and self examination in recognizing God's presence even within themselves. This concept serves as a motivational reminder of the accessibility of the divine and the transformative power of a sincere and active relationship with God. Point 6, David's recognition of human insignificance. Calvin refers to King David's contemplation of the name and glory of God displayed everywhere, and his subsequent exclamation, "What is man that thou art mindful of him?" This underscores the human race as a mirror of God's works. Calvin's reference to King David's contemplation is rooted in Psalm 8, verses 3 and 4, where David poetically reflects on the vastness of the cosmos and the apparent insignificance of human beings in the grand scheme of creation. The verses read, "When I look at your heavens, the works of your fingers, the moon and the stars, which you have set in place, what is man that you are mindful of him, and the Son of Man that you care for him?" This reflection of David is a testament to the humility and awe that comes when contemplating the majesty of God's creation. In the vastness of the cosmos, with its celestial bodies and natural wonders, human beings appear small and inconsequential. However, David's contemplation does not end with this sense of insignificance. It leads to a deeper recognition of God's providential care for humanity. Calvin's interpretation of this passage highlights the notion that while humanity may seem insignificant in the grand cosmic picture, God's mindfulness and care for human beings elevate their status. This elevation is due to the divine relationship that exists between the Creator and His creation, especially humankind. In a real world context, the concept of David's recognition of human insignificance can inspire a sense of humility and gratitude. When individuals contemplate the vastness of the universe, they may gain a perspective on their place within it. This perspective can lead to a deep sense of awe and reverence for the Creator. Moreover, this concept underscores the intrinsic worth and value of every human individual. While human beings may be small in comparison to the universe, their significance is not diminished. Calvin's reflection in Psalm 8 points to the fact that each person is known and cared for by God, regardless of their perceived insignificance in the cosmic order. The concept of David's recognition of human insignificance serves as a reminder of the humility and awe that comes from contemplating the grandeur of God's creation. It underscores the idea that despite the vastness of the cosmos, each individual is known and cared for by God, affirming their intrinsic worth. This concept inspires a sense of reverence, gratitude, and recognition of the divine relationship that exists between humanity and the Creator. Point 7, infants as eloquent proclaimers of God's glory. Calvin highlights David's declaration that even infants, while hanging on their mother's breasts, have eloquent tongues that can proclaim God's glory without any need for other orders. This demonstrates the natural ability of all humans, even the youngest, to reflect God's glory. Calvin's reference to King David's declaration is rooted in Psalm 8:2, where David poetically expresses the idea that God's majesty is proclaimed even by babes and infants. The verse reads, "Out of the mouth of babies and infants you have established strength because of your foes, still the enemy and the avenger." This reflection by David underscores the notion that the praise and proclamation of God's glory are not limited to the articulate or learned. Instead, even the simplest and youngest among humanity can, in their own way, contribute to the declaration of God's majesty. This highlights the intrinsic nature of human beings to reflect God's glory, regardless of their age or intellectual capacities and capabilities. Calvin's interpretation of this passage highlights the idea that this ability to proclaim God's glory is a universal trait of humanity. It transcends the boundaries of age, language, or education. Testament to the innate capacity of all individuals to recognize and reflect the divine, regardless of their life stage. In a real world context, the concept of infants as eloquent proclaimers of God's glory can have several implications. It encourages a sense of inclusivity within religious communities, reminding believers that everyone, even the youngest, has a role to play in worship and the expression of faith. It emphasizes the intrinsic worth and spiritual potential of every individual, regardless of their age or abilities. Moreover, this concept inspires a sense of wonder and reverence for the purity and innocence of infants. It calls for individuals to recognize the divine image in every human being, especially in the most vulnerable and innocent among us. It also highlights the idea that God's glory can be manifested in the simplest and most unassuming acts of praise and worship. The concept of infants as eloquent proclaimers of God's glory underscores the universal and innate capacity of all individuals to reflect God's magnificence. It's a reminder of the inclusive nature of worship and the intrinsic worth of every human being, regardless of their age or abilities. This concept encourages a sense of wonder, reverence, and recognition of the divine image within every individual, especially the youngest members of our human family. Point 8, refutation of God's deniers. Calvin mentions that David uses infants to refute the arrogance of those who seek to extinguish the name of God through pride. The innocence and purity of infants serves as a powerful testimony to God's existence. Calvin's reference to King David's use of infants in this context is based on Psalm 8, verse 2, where David proclaims, "Out of the mouth of babies and infants who have established strength because of your foes to still the enemy and the avenger." In this verse, David underscores the idea that the simple and innocent voices of infants serves to silence those who oppose and deny God's existence. Calvin interprets this passage as a means by which God uses the very innocence and purity of infants to expose the folly and arrogance of those who refuse to acknowledge the divine. Infants in their unspoiled state are incapable of deceit or denial. Their existence, their presence, and their innate wonder at the world around them serve as a powerful testimony to the existence of a divine creator. In real world context, the concept of the refutation of God's deniers carries profound implications. It underscores the idea that God's existence is evident not only in complex theological arguments, but also in the simple, unadulterated expressions of awe and innocence, such as those of infants. This concept serves as a reminder that God's existence is not dependent on the intellectual or philosophical prowess of individuals. Instead, it is profoundly evident in the natural world and in the innate spiritual awareness that exists within all human beings. Even from the earliest moments of life, the innocence of infants challenges the intellectual arrogance of those who seek to deny the divine and invites individuals to approach God with childlike humility and wonder. Moreover, it calls believers to protect and nurture the innocence and purity of infants and children, recognizing their precious role in bearing witness to the existence of God. It also encourages an appreciation for the spiritual depth and receptivity that can be found in the youngest members of society. The concept of the refutation of God's deniers underscores the role of infants in countering the arrogance of those who seek to deny God's existence. It emphasizes the profound testimony that the innocence and purity of infants provide the reality of God's existence. This concept invites individuals to approach God with humility and wonder, recognizing the divine presence in the simple expressions of awe and innocence that characterize the earliest stages of human life. 9. Paul's quotation of Aratus. Paul mentions the passage that the Apostle Paul, uh, Calvin mentions the passage that the Apostle Paul quotes from Aratus. We are his offspring. This illustrates that God is our Father, and the excellent gifts bestowed upon us confirm this parental relationship. The passage that Paul quotes from Aratus is found in Acts 17:28, for in him we live and move and have our being. In this quotation, Paul invokes the Greek philosopher and poet Aratus, who I spoke of earlier. Calvin's interpretation of this passage underscores the notion that when Paul quotes Aratus to emphasize that in him we live and move and have our being, it serves as a powerful declaration that God is not merely a distant deity, but a father to humanity. This quotation points to the intimate relationship that exists between the Creator and His creation. In a broader historical context, Paul's reference to the Greek poet like Aratus shows that the apostle's willingness to engage with the philosophical and cultural ideas of his time. He effectively used familiar language and concepts to communicate the Christian message to a diverse audience. By quoting Aratus, Paul bridged the gap between the beliefs of his Greek audience and the gospel he was proclaiming. He acknowledged that some aspects of Greek philosophy and poetry contained elements of truth that could be aligned with Christian theology. This concept also highlights the idea that humanity is not merely a collection of random beings, but individuals who are intimately connected to God as his offspring. As such, the remarkable gifts and qualities inherent in humanity, such as reason, morality, and creativity, serve as a confirmation of this divine parentage. In recognizing God as our Father, this concept also underscores the inherent value and dignity of every individual. In a real world context, this concept encourages a sense of belonging and identity. It reminds individuals that they are part of a larger divine family and that their lives are deeply intertwined with the Creator. It also inspires gratitude for the gifts and attributes that make human beings unique and capable of reflecting the divine image. The concept of Paul's quotation of Aratus demonstrates the Apostle Paul's engagement with the philosophical and cultural ideas of his time, as well as his recognition of the intimate relationship between God and humanity. It emphasizes that God is our Father, and that the remarkable gifts bestowed upon us confirm this divine parental relationship, affirming the intrinsic worth and dignity of every individual. Paternal love is a motivator for service. Calvin argues, this is point 10, Calvin argues that people will not willingly devote themselves to the service of God unless they have first experienced and tasted his paternal love, which allures them to love and reverence God. This paternal love serves as a motivator for devotion and service. Calvin's emphasis on the role of paternal love as a motivator is deeply rooted in his theological perspective, which highlights the personal and intimate nature of the relationship between God and humanity. He believed that recognizing God as a loving father who cares for and nurtures his children would inspire deep devotion and a sense of responsibility among believers. This concept aligns with the biblical teaching on God's love as a driving force for devotion and service. The apostle John in 1 John chapter 4 verse 19 succinctly states, "We love because he first loved us." This verse underscores the reciprocal nature of love and highlights that our love for God and others is a response to the love God has shown to us. In the real world, this concept has profound implications for individual spiritual journeys. It underscores the importance of experiencing and internalizing God's love as a foundational step in one's relationship with the divine. When individuals come to understand God as a loving Father who cares for their well being, it fosters a deep sense of love, trust, and gratitude. This love becomes a wellspring of motivation, inspiring them to serve God with joy and enthusiasm. Furthermore, the concept of paternal love as a motivator is particularly significant in the context of Christian ministry and service. Those who engage in ministry are often driven by a sense of calling, love, and a desire to serve others. Recognizing God's paternal love as the source of this motivation reinforces the idea that ministry is an expression of love and a response to the love of the Heavenly Father. In summary, the concept of paternal love as a motivator for service, as articulated by Calvin, emphasizes the central role of God's love as a driving force for devotion and service. It underscores that experiencing and tasting God's paternal love is a powerful motivator, alluring individuals to love and reverence God and inspiring a life of service and dedication. This concept highlights the reciprocal nature of love and underscores the transformative impact of recognizing God as a loving and caring Father. In the realm of divine grace, we set the stage, man a microcosm in wisdom's gilded cage. John Calvin saw in every soul's reflection a world in miniature, a divine connection. Wonders within, a treasure trove concealed, intricate, profound, in humanity revealed. A gift from God, His grace within our frame, a testament to the Creator, we are not the same. Paul's voice rings clear, Athens' ancient lore, feel after God he implores, and find Him for sure. In each one of us, His presence takes its place, proclaiming His nearness through boundless grace. No excuse for sloth, Calvin's voice resounds. Within ourselves, God's presence astounds. Why delay when He's already here? In introspection, the divine path appears. David's insights, humility's sweet embrace. In God's grandeur, he found his rightful place. About his man, he mused with reverence and humility. Yet, even in our smallness, God's love fills our reality. Infants, innocent, without cunning or guile, proclaim God's glory, and their voices reconcile. Through purity and simplicity, their witness shines. In their tender hearts, the divine presence entwines. Refutation of the divine deniers, an infant's pure call. God's existence is affirmed, and false pride will fall. Through the voice of the innocent, God's truth takes flight. In their unadulterated faith, His presence feels so right. Paul's echo of Aratus, ancient words still true. We are his offspring in the sky's brilliant blue. These words bridge the gap between philosophy and faith, a testament to God's existence in all things. We see his wrath. Paternal love, the heart's profound motivator, inspiring devotion, makes us an imitator. God's love is Father, the source of our service. With His love within, we're filled with purpose. In the tapestry of faith, these concepts intertwine. In life's journey, through grace, they brightly shine. For in God's love, His nearness, our immanence we find, our purpose, our strength, our recompense. Until next time, continue to follow Jesus, who is the way.